right, we are back on Play It Forward with Christopher Piñero, filmmaker of Gone, the short film we'll be talking about today. You wrote it, you directed it, you produced it, you edited it. It's a very sophisticated movie. Storyline is very sophisticated. The production is very sophisticated. It's a great, great picture. Really happy to have you here. Would you like to
Thank you.
introduce yourself or the storyline in any way prior to starting?
Yeah, film about a woman who's afraid to face the fact that her mother is dying, and it shakes her so much that she refuses to go see her in her final days. And it's not until a mysterious stalker forces her to face the fact of the inevitable.
Yeah. And I, with every film, I take notes and I have three categories of notes. I have storyline, subtext, and theme.
Yeah.
And somewhere, either in the subtext or theme, I wrote down for my notes, it's death versus denial,
Mm,
death versus avoidance.
hmm.
And, you know, the inescapable reality or the inescapable truth, right? There's
Yeah.
truth of the matter, whether we color it, change it, rearrange it, it's there.
Yeah.
And it's often hard to get to and hard to face. So the first question, to play it forward, and it's such a, the story is told a very powerful way. There's a very interesting, plays on genre. You're sometimes thinking, whoa, is this a horror film? And no, oh no, it's not a horror film. What's happening here?
Yeah.
It's a great way to portray the horrifying a death and the difficulty that a lot of us have in facing it, at least at one point in our lives, and how to, it suggests ultimately, well, how can we face it? So,
Hmm.
without further ado, the first question is, as I mentioned, where did this inspiration, where this story live inside of you and your body?
So back in 2020, like a lot of people, they were, I was going through anticipatory grief with my grandmother, and she was dying of cancer, not COVID. But like a lot of people, I lost a few family members during 2020, and but my grandma, I was really, we were really close, and I knew she was gonna die. Um, at some point. We just didn't know when.
Soon,
And
yeah.
yeah, it was, they kept saying, like, she's because there was a little pamphlet that I got. It was called Gone from My Sight. And it was kind of letting you know the stages of, I guess, the leading up to death. And it was pretty like pretty sobering, I guess you would say. I mean, I'm reading this and I'm just like, she's not going to be here soon ever. Like, this is the finality of it was just pretty uh, jarring to me. And I started just having this, I didn't even realize it was happening, but I guess I was having like anxiety about it.
Mm.
And I remember I started to lose like a patch of my hair.
Jeez.
It was a quarter size patch of my hair. And I remember
Wow.
like uh, my fiance and people around me, they'd be like, "Hey, do you have like a bald spot there?" And I was just like, "No, no, my hair's just long. It's just falling in a funny way." And soon it was just a full on, bald spot. And I was just like, man, this is really affecting me. And like, there's something going on inside that I'm not either realizing, or maybe I'm avoiding it. I don't know. But it was getting closer and closer to her time. And I just had this image. We were sitting by the beach and we were just chilling, just kind of like, I don't know, trying to take our minds off of what was going on. And I just had an image of a woman in the water begging for forgiveness that she didn't go see
Mm, mm,
her mom in her final days,
mm,
because I had family members who were, their choice was to stay away
mm.
in that final month or whatever.
Yeah.
And and it's very easy to go into judgmental territory where you're like, I'm not doing that. I'm there every day. It's easy to, but I started to like just think about it, like wonder, what would make me stay away? What would make me make that choice, and what would it do to me?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where the stalker came from, the
Yeah.
anxiousness and
Yeah.
the physicality of pulling on the hair. I couldn't just show a bald spot coming out of. I couldn't show the bald spot just happening. I had to show like a physical manifestation of it. So that's where the pulling came from.
Yeah, I love that. That was such a great motif it ended up being, but it's such a great, visual, and really made it, believable and that much more personal. You really get to experience that. So that was one of the things that I really appreciated about the movie. And thank you for, sharing that with us. And I do believe that that process that you just described is like how the best art gets made. It's a combination of your personal experience and reckoning with it, and then it's a combination of like this inspiration and this, where it comes from, we don't
Yeah,
know. And those things
yeah.
like coming together to make this, with your intellect and mind and your artistry
Hmm.
is it came out beautifully.
Thank you.
Um, the second question to play it forward is, what do you think the statement of the film is?
I guess so. Another thing that happened while I was, well, it was right after we made it. We like literally the day after. I got another call because my grandma had died in July, and that's when I first wrote it. And then we shot it in November. And then the day after we wrapped, I forget who it was. It was my mom or somebody called me and said that my dad had COVID pretty bad. And
Jeez.
and I was just like, man,
Wow.
I just shot a film that was about grief, and then now they said he was in the hospital, and I was like, okay. So then I called him, and I was just like cracking jokes and like trying to keep the situation light and make him laugh, and then a couple weeks later, I'm editing Gone, and I'm literally in the beach scene at the end. I'm cutting that together, and then my brother calls me and says that he doesn't have much time left.
What?
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, it was pretty. Yeah, so then I'm cutting that scene together, and then
Jesus
trying to like,
Christ.
yeah, I'm just trying to like be like, okay, if I just do this, if I just edit and like, maybe I'll get some good news later, right? Because my brother's on his way there, and so he could FaceTime us. And so when he FaceTimed us, then he's laying there in the bed, and I'm like, oh, maybe he has like a positive update. And then he was like, he's about to go. So if you want to say something, and it was just like, oh man, like, and
Holy.
so yeah, so he passed in the middle of um editing. Yeah, it was pretty messed up. It was pretty cruel, actually, I would say, because it was during that time where you just, if it was any other time, I could, in the lead up, because he was in the hospital for a few weeks, I could have went, but it was like everything was so weird during that time.
How far
That
away were you from him?
I live in LA and he was in Wisconsin. Yeah, so it was a pretty far journey, and I guess I just held out. I was like, there's no way I'd lose my grandma in July and then my dad in November. Like there was just no chance. I was like, he's gonna be okay. Like even though I was feeling that same fear coming back, um,
Wow.
I was like, man. But my point in saying that is, my fiance's sister, who's like my sister, she sent me this quote of where there's deep grief and sadness, there was great love. And that's kind of what the end of the movie sums up, is like, you don't need to you don't need, sure, you feel what you feel in this process, but you don't need
Hmm.
to be scared, because all that's there is love. And so that's something that I did learn. Hopefully, I don't experience this for a while, because I think I've had
Amen.
my fair share of it
Agreed.
for you know.
Agreed.
But
Agreed.
uh, it's just, there's, there's a lot of love in grief, I think. Um,
Absolutely.
but yeah,
On a human level, I mean, my heart just reaches out to you, it's just like
yeah,
a lot. It's a lot
hmm,
back to back. And I can't help but feeling that, there is something powerful and something cosmic in you making this movie, and
yeah,
something yet to be experienced. Here you are making this movie about this mother-daughter relationship and this dynamic, and not being able to see him, where that wasn't your MO all
hmm,
along. You would have gone. But here
yeah,
you are in this position that it happens so suddenly you can't go, and
uh,
your end scene is receiving the gift,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
and this movie's a gift, man. And you know,
Thanks.
yeah. And that connection between you and your dad, there's like, it doesn't matter whether you say goodbye. I mean, you could talk to them now all day long. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? You don't need the phone anymore.
yeah, yeah.
So, and as a side note, my dad died too in 2021, a little over a year ago.
Mm.
Um, I wasn't able to say goodbye because of COVID too. I had a daughter, we couldn't
Sorry to hear that.
travel. Thank you, likewise. But I just bring that up because I think my relationship with my father's never been closer. you know,
Yeah,
and I hope you find healing very soon.
yeah.
Um,
I think one day it'll come. I'm already like trying to figure it out, but in a I'm preparing my next feature, but I'm a story about a father and son. Like at some point, it'll come to me, but I
yeah,
definitely want to do something with that, because
yeah,
it was such an ironic, painfully ironic thing that
incredible.
another thing that happened in early 2020 was like April 3rd or around there. And this was like the very beginning of it. But my grandfather passed from COVID. And that's my dad's dad. And he had to say bye to him on an iPad because he couldn't go. And here I am, fast forward 7 months later, and I'm saying
Wow,
bye to him on,
wow,
FaceTime, same way. And it was
wow.
just such a painfully ironic thing. There was a few relatives we lost that year, and close friends, relatives that we lost. And it was just like, it was like a train wreck of grief
Wow.
that whole
Yeah,
year. And
yeah,
yeah, it was pretty intense. Yeah.
very.
Hmm.
The last question, play it forward, you may have answered, but still, it's worth asking because you may not have. There's more there.
Hmm.
Um, how have you been changed personally since making the movie?
Um, yeah, it was like this. It was like a couple. I had a kid recently.
Oh, that's
We
great.
had a son, and he's almost a year old now.
Yeah,
And
it's a lot, man. Wow.
yeah, and we named him Phoenix because of all the death we experienced. And I've just always been obsessed with that name, and I love the idea of rebirth, and
Yeah.
the transformation, all that. And a few months ago, I was like, I think after all that happened in 2020, um, there was like an anxious feeling where I kept thinking about future events. Like, man, like we don't have much time here. Like I'm in my 30s. Like it's just like it was. I was having anxiousness about it, and like, but it kind of came to a head a few months ago, because I was like, man, I can't be like this anymore. This version of myself that I've been, I need to let that go. Like, and just, I need to change. And so a few months ago, I really like, I started meditating every day and
Mm.
trying to like just be more aware of the present,
Mm, it's
and
beautiful, man.
you know, my loved ones and what I do have currently, and just it's a journey, it's a
Oh yeah.
battle. It's like
Oh yeah.
it's like the old version is like behind me trying to regain
Right.
control, you know,
Right. It's yeah,
like
it's the stalker.
yes, it's literally that. And it's something that I grapple with daily, where I'm like, you know, trying to like, you know, live above my demons, you know,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and yeah, so I think that's like something that it really forced me to want to be
That's
someone,
beautiful,
or
man.
be someone different. Yeah.
You know, it's beautiful. I mean, I think there's something so just powerful. Like you're in it still. It's still so
Yeah.
close. Something so
Mhm.
powerful and Phoenix-like within your life that
Yeah.
reflects this movie, that reflects your life,
Hmm.
and the it's like this like pressure that's going, you know, and it's
Yeah.
going to go in a beautiful way, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. In a
and
positive direction.
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Hmm.
and there's inertia, and you're harnessing that inertia in a
Hmm.
positive way,
Hmm.
and with what you're doing, how you're channeling it, and you know, it seems to me like you know, two thoughts. One is all of us have to face this impermanence and this lack of guarantee and this, you know, formlessness. But once we can embrace it, when we can come
Hmm.
into it, you know, when we can put our arms around the stalker and say, yeah,
Yeah.
man, just come on in. You know, I will
Yeah.
love
Yeah.
you. I will love you
Yeah.
too. It's gonna be all right. You
Yeah.
know, there is a peace in it and
Yeah.
a unity.
Yeah. Because you could only run from these things for so long, whatever
Yeah.
that thing is that you're
Yeah.
running from, because it'll eat you alive at
That's
some
it.
point. It's just it'll catch up to you
Yep.
at some point, and
Yep. Yep. Yep.
and
Yep.
no matter how painful it is,
Yep.
you have to, like you said, put your arms around it and
Yeah.
embrace it. You know.
Yeah. Christopher Piñero, filmmaker, writer, director, producer, editor. Awesome, awesome, beautiful movie, Gone. Thank you so much for, you know, this really powerful interview and sharing. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
All
Thank you for
right.
having me. This has
It's a
been fun.
pleasure. All right. Till next time, everybody, play it forward. Peace out. And Christopher, you know, I'd love to be, you know, abreast of your future work and, you know, definitely keep me posted.
Absolutely, man. Thank you. Great meeting you.
You too, man. All right. Bye, everybody.